Hey guys, be a sec here. 1 second. Well, more like three, but anyway. There was another video I was going to make today, but I didn't really have the time for it and to prepare for it, so sorry about that. But I decided to make this video quick because I just happened to talk about it with one of my friends at work. And I think that this is something that a lot of people are confused by, so I just thought, why not talk about this today? So yeah, growing up, I actually used to be more extroverted. And eventually, at some point when I was a teenager, especially when I was a teenager, a lot of people just seemed like it was okay to boss me around. And this wasn't just one or a few people. This was like a lot of people at one point. And it just kind of seemed to happen in group of people that I met throughout my life, since then. Of course, nowadays it doesn't really happen as much, I remember, especially when I got a lot bigger and stronger at one point, that a lot of people stopped lecturing me a lot less. And they also would, I remember this one time, let's say just for this instance, there was this one time when I just had a drink sitting there, and it was a summer shandy, I remember. And it was the first time I actually had a summer shandy because I was used to lots of times having stuff like, Budweiser and a few other drinks like that, just basic beers, basically, Busch Light. And so I was sitting there talking with my stepbrother, and I was just like, just kind of joking around a bit. And then across the bar was some guy with his girlfriend, and I guess he was wanting to impress his girlfriend or something, because suddenly he just blurts out, "Hey, just drink it up, you noob." And so it was like half a drink. It was just a free drink that somebody gave me as a sample to try it out. And so I'm just like, okay. And then I just drink it like that, just like that, actually. And I was like, better now? And then he just kind of shook his head like, whatever, and then just kept on talking to his girlfriend. And I was just like, yeah, whatever, tough guy. Whatever. But, that's the thing, is that I think, over time, a lot of people just thought that they could just get away with it, is the thing. That I would just be too afraid to stick up for myself as an introvert, because there's plenty of people that just think that people that are more quiet sometimes, and maybe sometimes I might have looked afraid or something, but the thing is, there's been plenty of people that have also tried to quote unquote help me out. And sometimes they'll make me try to do things like go out and dance and shit and all that. And I'll even say shit to them, or should I say it like this? I've even told them about how, I used to dance, actually, especially in the 90s. I used to dance quite a bit, but then the dance phase in the 90s went away, and a lot of the clubs that we used to go and dance at went away. So maybe a few are still around, but most of them are definitely gone. And I remember I used to go out and skating a lot when rollerblades were a thing in the 90s. Just all sorts of stuff that I don't really do nowadays anymore, really. But, since then, I've been more introverted. And for some reason, people think that I could change back to being more extroverted like I used to be. Maybe if it was just a short bit that people were bossing me around like they were, maybe possibly. But the thing is, this also wasn't just a thing about being bossed around, though. It was also about a lot of isolation at one point, too. And that's just how I naturally adapted over time. I didn't just make myself adapt over time to it. That's just how naturally I adapted to it, is the thing. And I mean, just like how I thought it was so crazy how things could change like that, because I even over time noticed myself that I had changed in a way that, going out just isn't like it used to be to me anymore. And the reason is because I just don't get energy out of it like it used to. That my mind and body, in a way, have just adjusted to the isolation in a sense, or at least to an extent. Of course, I don't think anybody could ever be completely isolated, but to an extent, I had adjusted to it, you know. But the bossing around is really, for years, is really what's made it to where I could never go back, as a thing, and, just shit happens. It just happens, and, it's just never going back. But here's the thing I've learned over time, because at one point I actually did try to kind of change it. In fact, I actually even tried changing it back to more of an extrovert for years and trying to get back into the swing of things. But the thing is, yeah, I learned myself that, lots of times trying to go introvert to extrovert just does not fucking work. It just does not. Now, the funny thing is that a lot of people say that introverts don't like to socialize. The thing is, I actually still like to socialize. It's just that, let's say if I go out for a day and I socialize a lot for that day, then my social batteries are just run out. My batteries for, let's say, somebody that's introverted like myself is kind of like a wireless controller, per se. And an extrovert is more like a corded controller. Now, the corded controller has to always stay into the system and continuously get that. But a wireless controller sits in its own corner by itself, maybe with one other controller at best, of course. And then that's how that controller recharges, is by its sitting by itself. And that's basically the same way how introvert like myself recharges. It is not by choice. It's not by choice. Let me tell you, it's not by choice. If I'm dead serious, if it was my choice, I'd at least be living a bit more like I used to. But here's the thing. The problem is that a lot of people just do not fucking understand this. They do not understand. And sometimes they will even try to compare me with people that are antisocial. I'm sorry, but sorry about that. Being an introvert is not antisocial. And there are plenty of times when I listen to people and them saying shit like they hate all people. And I tell them, I mean, do you really hate people? Because if you're a hater, like you're saying you are, that means that you're violence, is what you're saying, actually. And I also don't think that some of them will understand that either, is the thing. To be a hater is to be violent, or at the very least abusive towards, different race, group, etc., gender. And if you aren't those things, then you are not a hater. And if you don't actually hate people to the extent that you are violent or abusive towards most people in general, then you are not antisocial. You really want to meet somebody that's antisocial, you can go right the fuck ahead, because I actually have, and it is actually not a fun experience. There is no talking to somebody that is antisocial. Let me fucking tell you. There's no convincing them either. Oh my God. I've only talked to somebody that was actually antisocial maybe a few times, but that's it. And yeah, it's not very fun. Of course, you never know who you're going to meet sometimes, right? But anyway. But yeah. The thing is, yeah, there seriously just isn't actually anything wrong with being introverted. It's just different, is the thing. And I would at the very least be going out a bit more than I do. But, you know, people just really do not seem to understand, which is the only issue of me going out right now. At least sometimes, besides maybe being out, having to sit by myself to recharge every now and then, of course. But yeah, that's in a nutshell how it is. Basically, in a nutshell, being introverted is like. It's just people not understanding. That's the only issue, really, when it comes to being introverted. Like, one benefit to being introverted, I noticed, is that I am more able to notice people and their body language, per se. Like, and this will just be kind of a last tidbit that I'll talk about here in this video. Not that I think you'll even get this far in the video anyway. God damn, my throat. Is when I have been in crowds, I used to get energy from being in crowds, but, you know, not anymore like I used to, is the thing. I used to think it was really fun when I would see a crowd, but now when I see a crowd of people, I don't really feel anything anymore. Now, I've talked to some introverts that say that they're literally almost like afraid of crowds. That when every time they see a crowd, they're like, ah, and then they move to a corner or something. I'm not like that, at least, but you might see me sitting at the bar, you know, by myself, or maybe with one of my friends, maybe, but that's it. You know, and if somebody comes out of the crowd, I might socialize with them, but I just really don't get anything out of it. But as I'm watching the crowd of people, and then, of course, not watching in a creepy way, but sometimes, let's say I am interested in talking to somebody, whether they're a man or woman, you know, I will pick up on their body gestures and body language, you know, the look in their eyes when they're talking to their friends, or just their look in their eyes in general, even the ways that their mouth moves, whether they're listening to their friend or not. And that's another thing. I'm able to plenty of times actually be able to tell when people are actually listening to the people that's trying to talk to them. And let me tell you something, at least lots of times on average, there's 60 to 70% of people in the room that aren't even listening to whoever's talking to them, to be frank with you. I can actually tell now that all these people in this room aren't even listening to each other when they're talking, which is just fucking insane to me, because I didn't know this when I was younger. But as I've gotten older and I've gotten more used to being more introverted, I now notice this stuff. And that's kind of the beautiful thing about being introverted, is that I don't really have to talk to people anymore like I used to. It's the thing. All I have to do now is observe. And in a way, I actually get to know them even better than I ever did than when I was chatting with them, because now I'm actually focusing on them and what they're doing is the thing, versus just talking to them. Now, of course, talking to somebody and getting into a conversation with somebody is a very good thing to do, and it is part of getting to know somebody. But if that's all that you're focusing on, you aren't really seeing the big picture. And that is what I learned when I became introverted. And it's kind of no wonder why so many people will confuse me with being antisocial or something else. And sometimes they might even think that I'm somebody like a Jeffrey Dahmer or something, because Jeffrey Dahmer was a bit quiet as well sometimes, but he was also very charismatic. Is a thing. Introverts aren't charismatic normally, so to speak. But yeah, it's just, yeah, because of the stigma and what some people have done when they are, you know, quote unquote quiet. And yeah, sometimes people have even compared me to somebody that will literally shoot up a school, but I've never, of course, done this, nor will I ever do it, probably. I mean, if I'm ever mad at somebody, I'll probably just meet them in a parking lot and just kick their fucking ass. But, you know, I mean, just something. I mean, that's the thing. If I'm literally pissed off at somebody, I'm not just going to have everybody watch me do it and be witness to what I'm doing, is the thing. I'm going to meet them somewhere in a dark place where nobody else is around and just beat the living shit out of them, is what I'm going to do. Now, of course, I'm not going to say I'm going to kill them, of course, like that. But I'm just being honest. If you really are pissed off at somebody, that's just what happens. But moving on from that, of course. Of course, I haven't really ever done something like that. But if you get angry enough, you never know what you're capable of doing. After all, I didn't know what I was capable of doing before until I actually did do it in the past. But enough said. But yeah, it took years and years and years, tried to change it from being introverts, and nope, never happened. Never changed back into being an extrovert. And here I am to this day. I'd say I've been an introvert now for at least 15 years. At least. And with that being said, I will just end this video. And maybe you'll think about what I just said in this video. Maybe we won't. And maybe you won't watch the first 2 minutes of it, but I will see you guys in the next video. And hopefully after this month here, I will at least have some time to come up with the videos that I've been wanting to come out with, but due to switching to nights like I have, that just hasn't really been the case. So anyway, I'll see you guys later. Bye.